On the House of Norton. This is a poem about the most esteemed Duke of Norton, Norman Norton's ancestor, Norman Norton, the first of his name. Dear villains, listen to me. The first Norton, it is said, was a Viking from Visby, named Northon of Dread, with an ox-sized head. All would agree, a grin so foul it made the natives flee. He took out a loan to buy a boat to fit his 3 wives and his herd of goats, a pigsty that could float. Wife 2 a scapegoat, Marin her name, and they threw her overboard, and set off to Criddlesnitch from their sad little fjord. To wife 1 and wife 3 it was clear there could only be one when the ship docked. A duel they made 4 with bone-made spear, with sponge tips and a handled crocked. Silly women, cried Northon aghast, to see sponge spears and wives so steadfast. He resolved to solve this petty dispute by throwing both into the sea, that dastardly brute. But the taller of the wives, whose name escapes me, likely foreign and heathen, all have forgotten, held her breath down to the bottom of the sea. On her dying breath alone son was begotten. And this was a babe christened Norman Norton, by a dolphin priest sent by the Lamb, and from that day the first of his name knew to track down his father and split him in 2. The dolphin, his godmother so generous, brought him to shore with a basket of pearls, shiny and steeped with a scent venerous, and who was to find it but a treasonous earl? Sigward Stocksplitter, of the chivalrous sort, was corrupted and lost with Satan doth consort. He straddled his whiskers with nimble fingers, fine as tinder, and on his chin they did linger, and at last he conceived a most evil plan to pass the babe off as a lost prince. For sad state of affairs in the kingdom of Gort, the old Edward Spindleshanks has passed, while playing court tennis athwart his rival. And his boy of 10 had bleeding ears, 2 fingers, and a foot the size of a club. The clever Sigward had heard before of a second son from the days of yore. Brother to the homunculus on the throne, with a little convincing, and the help of a crone from the woods at St. Paul Commons, he might grow his power with puppet strings. A foul lady, the ancestor Leburg, held spells, chanced to enchant enchanters, whimsical things, and the babe was submerged in a cauldron filled with cloves and lies, a second baptism. Alas, Sigward cheered and travelled to court with young Norton, a wrapped in cloth bosom, and when advisers beheld the newborn gifted, most knelt and gave promises to Paragon uplifted, except one who saw through the cruel ruse. The holiest harpist, the hearer of woes, robed Meister, great adviser to the king, the bishop of Trocket, a capable soul. He could sense the child had double the baptisms. The second was steeped in cloves and lies. The first, he knew, was holy and high. And there he announced to the furious crowd his insights, his apprehensions fully avowed, and poor Sigward spent that day as his last, for by midnight safety he could not fantast. A pillar, a stake, a show the crowd made, hell fire and charred flesh for the dishonest knave. Trocket took pity on the now orphaned Norton, worth naught but his fortune of pearls and burden. But the bishop was privy to more than the lot, for his spirit was parallel to that dolphin, both good fellows and saviors, of course. And as the child developed the skills of the trade of a cobbler, piss-sodden shoes he made, he received a Trocket pension, though meagre enough to set up a shop, avid and eager. He steaded near Trumbull and had 3 sons. Only one survived, named Norman Norton. This quiet life with his nagging wife was fine, and his wish for revenge came against father, softened. He had found a home and ended his roam of adolescence so curious it leads man to coffin. But Northun, that pagan, had not truly forsaken. He was 10 miles west with both eyes missing. Nobody knows how he could see and strike. He knew not of his fate nor his son still living, and the cobbler still harbored a deep dislike. And when Trocket nearby heard of Norton's depart, he horsed about until he could catch him. And he chastised his ward for a soon suicide, and forbade advance despite any pride. "O Norton, unseasoned, learn wit, learn reason. By my life you shall stay, you are but a cobbler at heart, and you shan't make depart unless I lie dead this very day." And there at the crossroads of Trumbull and Pierce, to this day lies a cross made of willow wood, marking the spot where Norman Norton murdered Bishop Trocket the Good in cold blood. Sullen, he advanced towards Wignelham to meet his father with sex in hand. "By the blood on my hands I shall vanquish 1,000 goats to heal my anguish. I shall kill each one in front of my father to torment and torture the uxoricider." The Lamb who watched from above in horror had witnessed the holy be holy no more, and felt fate for Norton had been far too kind, his life to that of his father fate did bind. Fortified by stomach full of fine barley soup, and wearing a hat out of fashion on lure, Norton confronted Northern at dusk in front of the burning church of St. Amatus. "Cursed be cretins and creatures of sea, for they save worthless life to come and kill me. And I've seen the stars, and I know my fate, but I shall give you a fight, make no mistake," said Northern, who dashed straight for the heart, and advanced to narrow the 5 leagues apart. Ever confident, Norton made no haste to guard and ready to strike his father's lungs. He differed his posture and ready to lunge, and then came silence as both struck a blow, and no breath did escape, ended there the woe. And thus ends the story of the first of this line, On the House of Norton.